What are the present and future European regulation related to operators? You will listen to inspiring examples from City of Kerava, Finland, City of Leksand, Sweden, City of Aarhus, Denmark, and City of Stange, Norway. The webinar will end at 11 Central European Time, and the facilitator and moderator for the webinar is Juha Sarenthus from Geoforum Finland. And Juha, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. I hope you all are hearing me well.
Yes.
And welcome from my side also to this webinar, this Nordic webinar, which for some interesting reasons I'm running out of California and USA, but hopefully the technology works well from here. So without any further ado, let's move to our program, to our first speaker. Every speaker has about 20 minutes to share with us, and we have a possibility to discuss in between the presentations, time permitting, and at the end we have still some time for discussion. And as you may have noticed, the whole webinar is recorded for later sharing of information. So I'm giving the floor now to Olli Kunnas from City of Kerava in southern Finland. Please share your screen.
Thank you. I thought I'd show my face as well. In the background, I have very beautiful wintry scene, but it cannot be seen because it's so bright. But I start with the presentation. Here you go. So my name is Olli Kunnas, and I work as a GIS engineer in City of Kerava, and at the moment I am the head of our GIS services and flying operations as well. And where is Kerava? As you have said, we are located in the southern Finland, about 30-40 kilometers north of Helsinki. There you can see. And I'm giving this presentation from Hyvinkää. We are working in the remote office, as most of us probably are. Okay, Kerava and our remotely piloted aerial system operation. I will use instead of RPAS, the flying operations or drone operations in presentation. So some facts about Kerava. Kerava is quite small. It's only 31 square kilometers, but it's quite densely populated, as you can see. We are the third densest populated city in Finland, after Helsinki and Kauniainen. And before the new regulations, this wasn't a problem, but now it seems to be quite a problem for us, our drone operation. But some other facts. We have 100% maintenance of base map and cadastral and topographical map of Kerava. Most of Finland, the base maps and other maps are kept by the land surveying, the National Land Survey Office of Finland, but we have the 100% maintenance of our own map. And we started our RPAS operations in 2018. I actually did my engineering thesis about starting this operation for us. And in the beginning, I did all the operation manuals and other documentaries of flying, but after the new EU regulations, we updated the old documents by a consultant because of the new legislation. How would I say, not so clear. At the moment, we're operating 2 drones, one in surveying department and the other one for municipal infrastructure, construction sites, etc., etc. And we have 4 pilots, which 2 are working actively, and 2 others are under training. And there is the mention of Traficon, which is the official public authority for all RPAS operations in Finland. And in this presentation, I will first go through some of overall information about using drones in Kerava, and then I'll show some examples of the use that we have in 2D and 3D mapping. Okay, here is our equipment. When we started, we went through a lot of options, from the drones that cost around 30,000 euros to these more cheap drones around 5,000 euros. And in the beginning, we decided that we start with the cheap equipment, so we can kind of go through processes and practice with them. And from my point of view, that was a good idea, because it made the flying more easier to new pilots, because you didn't have to fly a 30,000 euro drone in the beginning. So how would I say, less frightening to fly this cheaper drone. And there you can see some of our programs. We use DJI, GS Pro, and DJI Pilot. And the processing we do with drone to map, the product of S3, and it works with ArcGIS GIS platform. The amount of flights we've done is about 90, and most of them have been aerial photographing. But lately we have started to do more videos as well. We've made flights in about 50 different sites, the new building sites and construction sites, mostly. And there is some technical specs how we fly. Well, clearly orthophotos we do with 90-degree angle, and oblique photos with 45 degrees angle. And we mostly do our photographing in motion. From time to time, we do these programs where the drone stops and takes the picture and goes to the next spot and takes the picture. And when we started in 2018, our max flying altitude was only 50 meters because of the near airport of Helsinki-Vantaa. But now it changes, and now we can fly up till 120 meters. And we always use signal points, even though we have an RTK drone now, but we still decided to use a signal point to secure the accuracy of the georeferencing of the photos. And let's go on. I try to be quick so there is time for discussion as well. And this is our division of our products that we do with our drones. As you can see, most of the amount is orthophotos for surveying and doing TCM, DSM, raster, and some of the flights we also use for oblique photos, but it's quite time consuming, so that's why the amount is so small. And of course, point cloud, mesh models, and as you can see, at the moment, video shootings are taking almost 30% of all our flight time. And we use the videos mostly for surveillance and also for PR uses. as we are, for example, Kerava is having a housing fair of Finland in 2024. So we are now doing a video shoot from the area every year at every time of the year. So we can do a nice time-lapse video for that housing fair after. And here is how we fly. This is really in short, but this is probably familiar for all the people who fly the drones, but I can go through it quickly. First, we decide the style, what we want to do. Then we measure the signal points before or after the flight. As I said, even with RTK or PPK used in the flight. We determine the flight area and camera settings, fill the required documentation, check the drone that's okay. We do the flying, and then we check the quality of the photos from the memory card, because this has happened a few times that we had some problems with the camera and went back to the office and then realized that the photographs were not good. And then we do the final processing in drone to map program. So I start with I guess, which is our most used practice of the drone. We update our base map from orthophotos and then add the data to our database. So it's quite simple. We do the orthophoto, georeferences, and then we either draw straight on top of it in ArcGIS, which is our main GIS platform, or then we use other solutions like 3D Win or AutoCAD, and then transfer it to the database. It's very simple and it's quite quick. I have one example here where we used it. There was a quite big construction site in Kerava. It was in 2019. They built up a whole new, well, not a whole new road, but renovated it. And we decided to do the surveying with a drone. And we flew it in 3 different parts. And after that, we just digitized it over the orthophoto that we made out of the drone flight. And the total use of time for all of this was about 5 days, including all the flight data process and the digitizing. And the area was about 42 hectares. And it worked out quite well. So here are some of the benefits that we have noticed using this technique that I just presented. You get complete surveying of broad areas. And as I wrote there, you see things from the air that you don't see from the ground. Of course, the surveillance and documenting and measuring in infra construction sites is quite a new thing that we started. But I guess one of the most important things is work safety, especially in road and construction sites. I used to work as a surveyor myself, so I find this work safety quite an important side of using drones when surveying busy traffic roads or construction sites or steep cliffs or any this kind of place site. Of course, the accuracy that we get from the georeferences or the photos, which is around 2 or 4 centimeters, which is more than enough for our base map. And also we tested interpolating or lifting the 2D mapping that we do over the orthophoto. So we lift the road lines, edges, etc. to a DTM or DSM made from the other photo, and there we get the set values for the object that we want to have and set values. And also we can take a lot of other photos and then digitize them during the winter when surveying is not possible. And it's also easy to do when working remote, as we all have done in these times. So the next part is the use of 3D products that we produce with our drones. There are some general lines, but I mostly concentrate here for the calculation of quantities from point clouds, which we have done in construction sites, and also surface and terrain models. So I go through a few examples that we've done. And as an overall comment, I could say that we feel that using drones to produce 3D products is quite fast and inexpensive way to do that, depending, of course, from your programs that you use. So here is the first example of calculation of quantities. So I try to show with my mouse. This is the area that we wanted that had to be like a bit away. And we did 3 flights there in the beginning. This is the beginning situation. Then in the middle to see how it's going on. And of course in the end. So here's the middle point. The winter has gone, spring, and you can see that some of the work is done. And here is the end situation. And after this, what we did, we triangulated the surface from the beginning moment and at the end point, and made surfaces out of them, and then calculated the quantity between the surfaces of these two surface models. And there we got the cubic meters of the amount of land that was cut away. So here is another example from a construction site surveillance. This other one is with other photo, and another picture on the right is a clip from a video. Clip that we took from a construction site. Here we can, what we wanted to do, we have the overall plan for the road building put over a other photo, so we kind of get the overall picture that how is it going on, and it went quite well. And here we can see they're digging up the canal and putting on some pipes for cables and other stuff. And I have one example from this video that we had a little argument with one of our constructors that they said that they've done a certain amount of rock extraction in a canal. And we were quite uncertain about that. Was it so? So we checked it from the video, and where we had the canal video shooted, and we saw that there were no signs of any kind of quarrying of rock or rock extraction. So the constructor couldn't say much after that because we had the proof from the video. And here is another interesting example. We had one of our tennis courts renovated, and after that the players started to complain that there was water on the field. So we flew it with a drone, made an ATM out of it, and here you can see that we could pick up the depression where the water was collected. We could done it also with with normal measuring with a total station or other methods, but we tried this one and it worked out quite well. And we go further. Here is just a mesh produced from our new school in Kerava. This is, well, how do I say, more of a PR type of thing. And here we see a point cloud with RGB colors of new house of blocks in the city center, also done with a drone. But these were the examples. Here are some of the observations about these operations in a city organization that I want to point out. The first thing is that make sure that you reserve enough time in your organization to practice and carry out frontline operations, and also for data processing. Because this is a big problem. If you do it randomly, every now and then, you forget the routine and the, how would I say, the pilot's rules, the task of flying and all of that. It's very important. And this has been a problem for us, because not enough pilots and not enough time to do that. Also, we found out that using permanent pilots, like same people flying all the time, is a good thing, because that keeps up their flying. Decide clear targets and situations where and when to use the drone surveying. And also think beforehand what kind of products you need. 2D, 3D, what's the accuracy that you need, because this has a big effect on the flight time and data processing. And of course, make sure that all the documents are up to date and that they are followed also by the pilot. These were the observations and where we come to challenges. Well, I said some of the points in the previous speak, but here are them again. Our drones are underutilized because of the lack of pilots and the lack of know-how and routine with flying operations. It's a big problem. And the other challenge is that I feel that the drone is still feels like something special, like an exciting story, when it should be taught as a normal measuring equipment, like total station. And this is kind of that the less you use it, the more exciting toy keeps on. But if you use it a lot, then it becomes normal routine and process of survey. Also, we don't have enough time to practice and test different flight methods. And then some questions, clear questions that we've come up in our operation. We still don't have a clear idea about the material or the sites that drones will be used for. I think we need a strategy for that. And there are the questions that are grown out of that problem. In which situation to get the best and optimized results drones? And do you fly with your own pilot, or do you purchase the service from an outside producer? I'm quite interested to hear how do you feel about these questions as well. Also, a problem is data storage and sharing the data. Now, we have most of our data in hard drives, but they are filling up quite quickly. So we have to decide where to put them on outside servers or in a cloud server. How long do you preserve the material? We don't have any idea of that. We have material from 2018, and it's lots of material. And the last one, are we getting all the information out of the data, and do we share it enough in our organization or with different interest groups? We have to be more, how do I say, open with the data that we have. Of course, we have to take in account the Gdpr regulation that we have nowadays. And the last part is the effect of new EU regulation on our operations, municipal organizations. How to get ready for the changes, in which timetable, and is it worthwhile to continue flying our own organization or just by the service outside? We have now gone through with the consultant some courses for our pilots that they can go through the, if I remember right, the A2 pilot test, and it's been quite challenging, and we still are a bit unsure, do we continue to fly with our own drones or do we just fly outside? Because we've noticed that we can do quite a lot of good things with our own flying, but can we continue it? It's a question. And we're coming close to the end. And here are some future goals for us in case we continue flying. We'd like to, we're of course making a 3D model of our city, and we would like to update it with drones and still establish a surveillance of construction sites as the part of the building process. That is a natural thing that every week there is a drone flight the whole construction site, and that's the way to document and surveillance, to have surveillance of that building. Try to have more flight time with drones, and also new gear or new lighter drones that would make the following of the EU regulations easier. So if we have larger, smaller drones, we can fly in the city more easier than with our contemporary drones. And of course, be more accurate with the details from point clouds produced with drones. And the last thing, I think we need a clear strategy for the future RPS operation in our organization. So that was quite quick. So I would say thank you.
Thank you, Olli. Quite a complete presentation on drones, especially on the surveying tasks. For every listener, we have a question and answer function in this Zoom session at the bottom. So if you have questions, please place them there, and we then can process the questions right after the presentations too, or at the end of the show. For Olli, I would have, because of lack of time, I would just have one question. What is your feeling of other municipalities in Finland using this technology today? How many use? How widely is it used? Do you have any feeling?
Especially the biggest cities started to use it, and I guess it was kind of how would I say? In the beginning, when the drones came, everybody wanted to do that, but then it's gone down a little bit. Either the people who bought the really expensive drones process them, or then they have the same problems that we do, the lack of personnel and lack of time to use them. But I've heard some really good experiences as well, and there are cities and municipalities that use drones as a normal surveying method. That's the overall feeling that I have.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let's move on because time flies, and let's move to Sweden, to Dalarna, Leksand, and we have Andrew Stoinagel giving us some experiences from the broad use of drones in the Sweden municipalities. So, Andrew, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Let me just share my presentation here. Yeah, so I'm actually a little nervous about talking in English. I'm originally from the United States, but I've never actually talked about drones in English before. So I'm feeling nervous that I might actually screw up and use the wrong words. But this first picture I'm actually using is maybe not the most beautiful picture, but it's a pretty good example of how we use them. We use them quite a bit in building and new construction sites. And this is a picture of a development area that we worked quite a bit in. So I work in Leksand now, but I worked in Falun for 10 years earlier, and most of my examples and knowledge comes from Falun. I've only been in Leksand for about a half a year now, so I'm in the process of implementing and trying to get the increased use of drones here. We've started here, but we haven't come up to the same level that we have in Falun, and that's my goal. We look at the drone as a surveying instrument, a lot like my colleague there in Finland said. It's a tool. It's just like any other tool, and it's probably a lot cheaper than a lot of the other tools. Right now, we use the smallest drone that you can pick up for 3,000 crowns, which is 300 euros. So it's really cost effective, and you can do quite a lot with it. So we use our pre-programmed routes when we're going to fly. We usually pre-program in the office and try to figure out what size area that we can potentially do. And we usually count things and how many batteries do we have and how big of an area can we do with the thought of that. With this new Mavic Mini that we have to use now because of the EU regulations, we need to set out control points as well to make sure that we can have good georeferencing. So then and another thing that we have to think about too is weather now with especially with these smaller drones, that it can't be too windy, it can't be too wet, it can't be too cold. So we need to really pick our days after the weather prognosis. So we usually build up a mosaic based on where we've flown. And this is an example. I think in Falun, they've thrown quite a bit more now. This is from 2019. So in Falun, we started flying, I think, maybe 2015. And then it's just exploded from there. I think the potential for pretty much any municipality is it's pretty enormous. But what we did is we overlay them on top of each other so that the freshest photo of that area is on top. And to be honest, these photos that you create with the drones are often a lot better and clearer than the maps that we create. So a lot of the old vector data we haven't even really updated. It's almost that we delete. So we've focused on buildings and we focus on roads and other important infrastructure. But a lot of the other stuff, it's a lot clearer to see a hedge or a tree in the picture. One thing we've learned is that using metadata and having good attributes in where we've flown is extremely important. This is an example of a construction site here that we've flown over the same area maybe once a month or maybe once a month, once every 2 months for 3 or 4 years. So you can always go back and you can look at the history of what has actually happened there, because it's one of those things that you're looking at quantities, you're looking at what was the actual historic landscape like, and a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's been used a lot by our building inspectors, and engineers are civil engineers and other people. So the difference is pretty enormous. And this has been one of the things that's changed kind of the way we work as well. Our old pictures that we used to get from our National Land Survey were 25 centimeter pixels, and you can see that there's a house, but when you start to zoom in, you can't really see what it is. But when we've been there with the drone and you're looking at the 3 centimeter pixels, you can see exactly what everything is. And this allows us to do some pretty amazing things. And the other thing is, with the drones, we need to create true orthos, which can sometimes create, uneven edges around the buildings, but it also gives us an overhead perspective, so we don't get the buildings that lean out into the street. So we're allowed to see everything in the pictures and in the city. And this allowed us to update our base map quite extensively. We thought that we had a fantastic base map and that everything was really in tip-top shape. But then when you start to fly and you start to look at the new material and you have 3 centimeter pixels, things were not as good as we assumed they were. So we went into and did a lot of work with updating the things that mattered for us. Like I said before, the buildings and the roads. And this saved us a lot of time. And when we have to do our other products like lot surveys, when somebody's going to build a new house, or when we're doing planning projects, we have to create maps and check large areas. And so it actually saved us quite a bit of time so then we could focus on updating these maps when we have time, when it's winter here and we can't really do as much work outside. We also use it to create 3D objects. We use stereo mapping. Flying with drones and then using it in stereo mapping can be a bit of a challenge, but it also is a very big advantage when you're actually, when you're actually in the program and it's working well. You get a whole different level of perspective and quality in your maps, and then you know that all the elevations that you're doing are safe, instead of having to overlay them on a surface model or a terrain model. You're easily able to create roofs and other structures as well. So we also use them for visualization, and this we use them to build up our buildings, the 3D models, and we also use them to texturize and overlay the pictures on the buildings on the side that were could allow us to then build up and place the architect's model of how the park was supposed to look, and then to able to visualize it in our visualization software that we use. So there's certain things that are difficult to do otherwise, and time consuming in 3D programs. We think also that the point cloud is extremely important. Here we flew over a new intersection on a highway that would have been extremely dangerous for our surveyors to have to go out and to survey. So we were able to fly over it, map out the new edges of the road, and to have all the elevations of the ditches. We didn't have to disturb traffic. We didn't have to order any expensive extra protection. We could fly over it, and then we could process the data and save us both danger and a heck of a lot of time. We also use it in SketchUp. So we bring in these models that allow us to both create 3D models when we need to. This is an example that we flew both. We flew for a 3D model. We flew at 90 degrees with the camera straight down, and then we flew with the camera pointing to get all the sides and the facades of the buildings, so that we can get the correct placement of windows and other things. Just in this example, we didn't actually model that much. When the point cloud is this clear and yeah, precise, then we just were able to create a terrain model and then bring in the architect's model to look at volumes. But a lot of times our city planners, they are more worried about elevations, heights, volumes, and sight lines, and that doesn't always mean having to model up everything. But when you have correct volumes of trees and you have sight lines from windows and other things, then yeah, not everything has to be a 100% 3D model when you have a very good point cloud. We also use our flights to update. Yeah, it's not exactly not a database, but it's a file or that we use to update our ground points. So we have our national laser scanning from our National Land Survey, but things change, and when we fly over areas that we know are being rebuilt, so we update the ground points of the areas, because we know we're going to have a lot of work in that area. But if we update these ground points at the same time as we fly, then it saves us when we have to create new maps and contours and other things. So it makes it easier in the long run, and then we also know that our original data, it's not right, which is important for us to be able to have an idea of what information we can trust and not trust. So we just yeah, like I said before, we create the terrain model, and then you can easily create contours from that we can then bring into our different products that we use. We also do our volume calculations, our mass calculations. This is an example of every year in Finland we calculate how much snow there is. We have pretty much the only ski jump in Sweden, and also very popular cross-country skiing area. So they save as much snow they can all summer. So they take this gigantic mound of snow that's been at the bottom of the ski jump, and then they cover it yeah, with different material. And then early in the winter they can, or in the fall, they can spread it out. But they need to know how much snow they have to be able to calculate how much of a trail that they can lay out early in the year. But we also do this for the energy company. We help them calculate how much yeah. See, this is what I mean. I'm forgetting my English words. How much of a fuel inventory that they have. In the same way when we're doing calculations and with dirt and other things like that, and rocks, stones. So in the new areas, we've also developed a little bit of a process that we fly over several times, but then even at different times we calculate the different masses in different areas, and then try to figure out even setting correct prices based on how much work it is to build in these new sites. We also fly to keep track of exactly what the contractors are doing. Are they actually doing, and have they done the work that they're saying that they have? Do the piles that they have on sites match up with what we've been built? Kind of as a control. And when they know, I think that the way we're controlling and looking at what they're doing, I think there's less of an incentive to try to cheat or to fool us. One of the things we also do is started to work with our asset management of what the municipality owns. This hadn't been earlier possible without these drone pictures because the quality isn't quite there, and to do this would take forever. So we've taken areas that we have now newly constructed and digitalized them from the drone photos, and then have come up with a database structure that we can keep track of exactly the different materials that are in the site that we take care of. They see this as a way to keep track of things like when does the warranty go out on these? Do we need to go out and check out what does the asphalt look like? What do the stones look like? What do the benches look like here? So we're trying to put everything into a quality geodatabase that we can keep track of everything, but it wouldn't be efficient if we didn't do this with drones. We wouldn't be able to map these kind of areas and have that kind of quality. We've even been out and flown when we've had flooding in the area. I think this was from 2018. We have our maps and our models, but okay, were they true? Were they not true? What do they need to think about in the future, and thinking about building and other things? So we were just able to do this over a few weeks. It was pretty intensive work. We had to buy several new batteries to be able to, and it was just flying to try to capture these areas. We've even started to do roof inspections as well, that we can fly and try to give them a easier example instead of them having to get a cherry picker and go up with 2 or 3 different guys and look at hard to reach buildings. So maybe not the best example of a roof that we've inspected, but we can fly and we can deliver 4K film, and then they can get an idea. Is there any major problems? Does it look okay? And then hopefully they can save time. It's a lot quicker and a lot cheaper for us to do that. We've even delivered kind of pictures to consultants and other parts of a municipality that they then use to put in their own 3D models of what the area is supposed to look like. And we even fly with pre-programmed flights to try to create films that are effective and work for to try to get people to move in and understand and sell in the area, and try to explain even to the public what's going to happen and what it looks like. So, but it's a lot easier when it's pre-programmed. It's a lot smoother flight than if you're trying to fly on your own. You can pre-program how the camera is supposed to move and what speed and everything. So I thought I'd just mention as well, was part of a group that helped create a handbook for using drones in Swedish municipalities. It's like everyone knows, it's extremely confusing with all the laws, all the new laws, and then I guess every country has its own laws and the restrictions. But it's a start in it's relevant in Sweden. I'm not sure how relevant it is in other areas, but there's certain parts of it I'm sure that can be applied pretty much everywhere. But it's more of an inspiration to try to get more municipalities to start using drones and to explain a bit of the laws and the other challenges that there are out there. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. I'll try to answer anything I can. Yeah, that's about it for me.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. There is actually a question from the audience. If I understand right, the question is about what software you use when you are flying the small drones. What software for the flight, because you had a flight plan.
We use Drone Link.
Okay.
That's I think that might be the only one that supports it now, and we have I've heard that now in December that the Mavic Mini 2 they're going to release the SDK for that.
Okay.
Software development kit, but right now we're still stuck with the Mavic Mini. We have a Mavic Mini 2 that we've used to fly a little bit on the side, and it's a lot more stable, and the radio connection is a lot more stable over a little bit more of a distance. Right now, I feel like you have the Mavic Mini and you're almost taking it for a walk, because anything that comes a little bit in the way, a tree or anything, you have to you have to fight to get the correct radio signal.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Very interesting. Two not so big municipalities in neighboring countries really widely using drones. This is really interesting, but also the challenges with the new technologies is here. Why don't we just move on, because we are a little bit behind schedule. We go to Denmark, where Martin Pedersen from Aarhus is sharing us experiences, and this is maybe something different. We are talking about crowd counting. So, Martin, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here to do this presentation. So, yeah, that's right. I'm going to talk a bit more specific about a new use that we have for our drones. We've been using drones since 2015, and we're already using it for 2D and 3D surveying, inspections, public relation images, documentations, and all sorts of different infrastructure management tasks. So we're doing something new here, and we're pretty excited to share it with you guys. So first of all, let me see if I can change these. There you go. So my name is Martin. I live here in Aarhus, Denmark, together with my small family. I'm a GIS consultant and I'm a drone pilot in the Department of Technical Services and Environment here in the city of Aarhus. My educational background is that I'm a Master of Science in Physical Geography, and I've been using drones since my master's thesis, where I investigated the possibility of surveying water bodies using drones to see if we can actually use these to monitor algae blooms and nutrient increase. I am a member of the drone board at Geoform Denmark, and I also use drones as a hobby. And yeah, this picture of me is from pre-COVID era, and more importantly, before I became a dad. So this project actually started as an idea by my colleague and boss, who thought that we could use our drones for something else, something more. And perhaps we could use it for to estimate crowd sizes at large events in our municipality. We have a lot of festivals, we have a lot of other large-scale events, and one interesting event actually was tall ships, which you probably are familiar with. It was here in, I believe, 2019, perhaps, and somebody from our municipality went out in public and said a very specific number of participants for this event. And this number was actually not backed up by any facts and was questioned a lot by the media. So perhaps in the future, when large-scale events reoccurs in society, we can assist these estimates with actual data. So we see this as a potential for a new valuable tool to use broadly in various units of our departments. And we also hope to aid police and other local authorities if needed be. So very briefly about machine learning. Machine learning is a term for an algorithm which through training learns how to improve itself at solving a specific task. So in this case, it's an algorithm which is fed by thousands of images of crowds with a known ground truth. So a known actual number of individual in the images. So today it's actually relatively easy for computers to estimate what kind of object is in a picture if the object is occupying a lot of pixels in the image. If you look up on your phone in your images, you can actually search for various words or situations like food or sunset, and it will already use machine learning on your images. So it's pretty widely recognized in the industry. But when you're dealing with a lot of individuals or a lot of things in an image, which takes up very few pixel per thing or individual, it's a completely different task. So it's actually very challenging for computers and humans to count a lot of people in a still image. So it's something new. It's a new technology, and it's not very widely available online as it is right now. So how we actually tried to investigate this or try to solve my boss's task was to start a search online to see if there's any existing tools, instructions to program one ourselves. But as we found out, there are very limited options. So we actually involved some external consultants from a company here in Denmark in aiding us finding a suiting algorithm which could solve this task. And it had to comply with these criteria that it should work with images similar to drone images, taken from above at an angle. It must be able to calculate individuals with on images displaying several individuals, and of course there needed to be a small margin of error. So we actually found an algorithm online which we used to train on data that we already had a known number of individual on. And lastly, we implicated this algorithm on our own computers and tried to test this algorithm using new images with a unknown ground truth. So this is pretty much how the project developed so far. So during our research, it became pretty clear that there's pretty much just one type of algorithm that you can use on still images showing a lot of individuals. And it's a so-called density map estimation algorithm. And it's pretty much using the visual density of individuals in an image to estimate the total number of people which are gathered. So it's pretty much looking at this sort of blob of humans and seeing based on its experience in all these training data to see how densely are these people packed together, and based on its training data, it can estimate how many people there are in these images. So and we also found that there are different kinds of training data out there which is needed for the algorithm. Some training data consist mostly of images of densely gathered crowds, and others show more sporadic crowds. And this is important because when you feed the algorithm with a new image, you need to choose between different types of pre-trained models based on different types of training data. So besides finding an algorithm that we could install and add to our own PC, a major task and a major issue was actually the installment itself, because there are no user interface in trying to install these algorithms. It's everything is based on Python related programs, and we're installing these using the command prompt. There is no user interface. It's not a program you can just download at the Microsoft Store or someplace else and install. So that was an issue for us because we're not really used to dealing with these kind of programs or Python language itself. But anyways, we got some help and we made it work using a lot of trial and error. And then we had to create a specific folder system which corresponded with the algorithm. And then we added the pre-trained machine learning models to these folders. Then we created a custom Python script, which we have to adapt to the chosen image that we need to calculate the number of individual on, and we need to edit the script into telling the algorithm which kind of training data that we use on this image. So here are a couple of examples. These images show that the command needed to run the script, and also in the background you see the actual Python script. So we did a initial test, which is so far our largest test, and we used a image from a different municipality because we simply didn't have any pictures of large-scale groups from our own municipality. So after we finally had the algorithm installed on our PC, we inserted the original image, which we had no known ground truth on, and we ran the algorithm, and we finalized the calculation with a computer estimate of 1,526 individuals. And down to the bottom right, you could see the visual output that the algorithm gives when you run these algorithm. You can see the higher density is shown with the red colors, and of course this increases as you move deeper into the image closer to the large building in the background. You can actually also see that, hopefully you can see my mouse, the algorithm also detects individuals far away from the main parade, as you can see, or the main gathering, which is correct because there are actually individuals up here. So it's actually finding people that perhaps a human would not notice. There are certain spots in the picture which is not representing humans, but overall, as we found out, the estimate was very close to the ground truth that we had to create. We made an average of several manual counts from colleagues in my department, and as you can see, we did this by manually counting individuals in different sections of the image. And the average of all those manual counts was just around 1,500 people. So just a margin of error of around, I think it was 2.3% or something like that. So a very, very accurate result. All right, so I'm skipping very rapidly through all this, but some final remarks is that doing these kind of experiments and installing this algorithm is very difficult, as it turned out, and it's based a lot on trial and error, mainly because these manuals or directions you can find online on how to install these kind of algorithm is not very dynamic, and all the programs and Python related languages always update itself, and so the manual is not necessarily accurate anymore. As it turns out, it's an algorithm that requires a lot of RAM. The more RAM you have, the merrier. Simply because higher resolution images needs a lot of RAM to be able to pull through the analysis, and higher resolution images, as you might expect, yields a better result for calculating the persons or the individuals in the pictures. Of course, we would like to carry out more tests, even more than we already had, to validate this algorithm which we have installed. So our Christmas wish this year is, of course, for more crowds to gather next year. As it turned out in our tests, it turns out that you cannot use this algorithm on images with few people, simply because this algorithm has not been trained to know what a human being is. It only knows what a group of people is, and how many people is represented in this kind of group. So images showing a full-size human, it simply does not know what it is. So how should it be able to count anything based on that? That's something we found out as well. Also, we hope to develop this into a finished tool which we can install easier on multiple PCs. It will be much nicer to easily be able to transfer this algorithm onto more powerful computers and stuff like that. And a very final remark is something my boss, of course, would like me to tell you guys, that this project is Gdpr compliant because we simply use images taken at a large distance, and as you can see, the output is totally unrecognizable. So that was a very quick run through of my presentation. I hope you have any question. If not, right now, you are always free to email me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Very interesting what you can do with artificial intelligence and the data. I have one question. Have you thought of any other purposes for using artificial intelligence than just crowd counting?
We have actually had this question several times before, because it's easy to imagine that, well, maybe this algorithm can be used on other subjects than just humans. So that's part one of your question. The answer for that question is that it all depends on what kind of data you have. Because in this case, we were pretty lucky to find pre-existing databases using or including thousands of pictures with large-scale groups with known counts of individuals. So for instance, if you want to count sheep instead on fields, we would need thousands of new images of sheep with known numbers of sheep to be able to calculate future pictures of sheep. But that's of course a possibility. The algorithm would work. You just need enough data. In terms of other machine learning projects, we were actually sort of struggling to find other applications, because I think machine learning and deep learning as well is they're both terms of something cool and something new, something weird, and we all want to work with it, but the difficulty is to find actual applications for it. So in this case, we actually found something rare that we could use, and we're pretty happy about that. But at the moment, we have no further projects up our sleeves.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure there will be new innovations in the future for this, because the technology really is interesting. But
Definitely.
again, we need to move on to our last presentation so that we don't go too much over our time. And so let's move to Norway. And Magnus Clausen from city of Stange. If I pronounce right, Stange. Yeah, the floor is yours, Magnus.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Juha. I hope you see my screen here now.
Yeah, that's okay.
And thank you very much for the opportunity for me to give a presentation under this webinar on drones in municipalities in the Nordic countries. My name is Magnus Clausen, and I work as a GIS consultant in the municipality of Stange in Innlandet County. And today I'm going to talk about the use of drones and drone data in municipalities in Innlandet County. And first, I'd like to start with a little introduction about Innlandet County. Innlandet County consists of 46 municipalities and is located in the southern part of Norway, as shown in red on the map on the right here. The county has around 370,000 inhabitants and has a size of 52,000 square kilometers, which equals approximately 17% of the total area of the mainland area of Norway. Some big cities in the county is Hamar, Lillehammer, and Gjøvik, which all has about 30,000 inhabitants. The county name translates to the inland and is the only landlocked county in Norway. And the northern and western part of the county is dominated by mountain regions and national parks like Jotunheimen, Rondane, and Dovrefjell. The usage of drones in municipalities in Innlandet is still fairly new, and many of the 46 municipalities still hasn't acquired a drone yet. The municipality that has been using drones the longest, I think, is the municipality of Vang, which I'm going to show some examples from in a little bit. And Vang has been using drones for almost 3 or 4 years now, I think. So what kind of drones are used in municipalities in Innlandet County? The most common drone is a standard consumer drone, the DJI Mavic Pro 2. And all of the examples I'm going to show here today uses a DJI Mavic Pro 2 drone. So why a consumer drone and not a more professional drone? Well, first of all, it's cheap. And it's a great entry-level drone for municipalities that want to test out the usage of drones without spending a lot of money. And it's good enough. It has a decent camera that takes nice pictures. It has a 20 megapixel Hasselblad camera, and it's versatile, and it has support for software like Pix4D and SiteScan for ArcGIS. And it's fast and easy to use. It's a plug and play right out of the box, easy to handle, maneuver, operate, and steer. And all this combined makes for great utility value. What kind of software is used by the municipalities in Innlandet? There are mainly 2 types of software used. The first is Pix4D Capture and Pix4D Mapper from Pix4D. And the second is SiteScan and Drone to Map from ArcGIS. Additional requirements for using a drone is a smartphone or tablet, iPhone or Android, to operate a drone with the software like Pix4D and SiteScan, and a GNSS receiver for capturing ground control points, which is used to georeferencing the pictures in the drone software. So I'm now going to show some examples that I have received from 3 good colleagues in 3 different municipalities in Innlandet County. First, I'd like to show some examples from the municipality of Vang. Vang is a municipality in the western part of Innlandet County, as shown as red on the map to the right. It has a population of about 1,500 people, and Vang is located in the mountain region of Valdres. First example from Vang is the construction of a new school in the municipality. The picture shown here is from an aerial photography from a plane. In Norway, we do aerial photography every 2 to 6 years, depending on the location. In urban areas, it's normal with new photography every 2 to 4 years, but in more rural areas, one can expect new aerial photography every 5 to 6 years, and some places even every 10 years. So as you can see on the picture, the aerial photography was taken when the school was still under construction. Here you can see a drone photography of the same school when the construction was finished. So Vang used a drone to photograph the school when the construction was finished so that they could update the base map. And it's pretty long to wait several years for new aerial photography of area to update the base map. Here you can see examples of the details in the pictures with the consumer drone. I think this drone was flown in an altitude of 90 meters, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty good quality for a consumer drone. And here are examples of updating the base map when the construction of the school was finished. So Vang used this drone photography to update the base map with roads and with building information of the new school and the school area. Another example, this one is a new residential area in Vang. In the aerial photography you see here, you can clearly see the deforestation of the area that will become the new residential area. And then Vang used a drone to map the area when the construction of infrastructure, such as roads and water and sewer pipeline, was finished, as you see in the drone photograph here. And then the drone mapping and the drone data collected was then used to update the base map. And here they updated the roads in the base map. But still, the contour lines, they are still old. The construction of the infrastructure in the residential area has altered the landscape. And the base for the contour lines are from LiDAR data or laser data. In Norway, we do LiDAR mapping every 5 to 6 years in urban areas. And a lot of changes in the landscape can happen within 5 to 6 years, such as man-made changes of construction of roads and residential area, and more natural changes in the landscape due to floods and erosion and landslides. So here you can see the old contour lines that shows the landscape and terrain before the construction of the residential area. And here the blue lines is the new contour lines generated from the drone data. And this can then be used to update the base map. A third example from Vang. This is a documentation of a rock slide. As previously mentioned, Vang is located in the mountain region of Valdres and can therefore be affected by rock and landslides and snow avalanches. The picture shown here is a still image from a video that was captured with a drone. So right after the rock slide, the area was still dangerous for humans to move into. So a drone was used to film and document the effect of the area of the rock slide. And the film was then evaluated by the authorities to determine the probability of new rock slides. And here you can see documentation of floods in a river on the right, and also the effect of heavy rain on the left. And both these pictures is captured with a drone. Vang has also used drone to plan and project and illustrate a new trail along a river in the municipality with this 3D mesh model. And the trail is shown here as a red dotted line in this picture. And here is an example of a generated point cloud and 3D mesh model of a church and the surrounding area in Vang. This has been used for illustrational and documentational purposes, and this can be used to document old and listed buildings in the municipality. Here's the example of the generated 3D mesh model. And as a last example from Vang, Vang has also been using drone for volume calculation. In this example, a lot of plastic garbage had been left on a property owned by the municipality. And before the removal of the garbage, the municipality wanted to know the total volume of the plastic garbage in cubic meters that had been dumped there. So a drone was used to map the area. And then a volume calculation was executed in the drone software. In this case, it was done in the software Pix4D. The second municipality I'd like to show example from is the municipality of Sør-Fron. Sør-Fron is a municipality in the middle part of Innlandet County, as shown as red on the map to the right. It has a population of about 3,000 people, and Sør-Fron is located in the mountainous and valley region of Gudbrandsdalen. The municipality of Sør-Fron has been using drone and drone data to document small rivers and brooks that are greatly affected by runoff in the spring when the snow melts and during heavy rainfall. Since it's located in a mountain region with steep valleys, it can be greatly affected by runoff and heavy rainfall. Here, the area that is affected is shown with a red ring. You can see the mountain regions and steep valleys in the background. Next to the small rivers and brooks is buildings and roads that potentially can be affected by runoff and heavy rainfall. And the area was mapped with a drone, and a 3D model was made for documentational purposes. And the affected areas is shown here by red arrows. And these small rivers and brooks are planning to be secured against flood by the authorities. And here's another example from another area with affected areas shown with red arrows. The third and last example is from the municipality of Sør-Odal, a municipality in the southern part of Innlandet. As shown as red on the map to the right, it has a population of about 8,000 people, and Sør-Odal is located in the region of Odalen. Sør-Odal has been using drones for volume calculation as well, calculating and illustrating changes in the landscape. Here, combining older LiDAR data with new drone data to calculate and illustrate changes between two sets of time in this query. And the changes is shown as gray areas. And Sør-Odal has also been using drones to map and document and illustrate public buildings, as shown in these pictures of a community center in the municipality. And I hear that Sør-Odal is also experimenting with using 3D models generated from drones in VR. That's pretty exciting. Well, to summarize, drones and drone data in Norden County is used for update the aerial photography when the existing aerial photography is old and outdated. With the drones, it's fast and easy to map smaller areas. We can use aerial photography from drones to update the base map. Examples in this presentation has shown the update of roads and contour lines and building information. And we can use drone data to create digital elevation models. We can calculate volumes of changes in the landscape and of man-made structures. We can create 3D models and 3D mesh of areas. And we can illustrate and document the use of drones for inspection of rock slides and buildings. So as my last slide, I want to inform about a public user forum for drones in Innlandet. In Innlandet, we have established a public user forum for drones, the first of its kind in Norway. The user forum was established in March of 2021, and we have so far held 2 meetings in the forum, and the next meeting is next week on December the 15th. And the participants are from public organizations like the municipalities in Innlandet County, the county governor, the Norwegian Public Roads Administration, the Norwegian Water Resource and Energy Directorate, NVE in Norwegian, and the Norwegian Mapping Authority. And in this user forum, we discuss drone usage and examples that the participants have, and also the RPIS operations and privacy, GDPR, and the national and EU regulations and legislations with drone usage. And the forum have had almost 50 participants in the previous 2 meetings. And we hope that this user forum will contribute to a broader and wider usage of drones in the municipalities in Innlandet, and can aspire more municipalities to acquire drones. So thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Magnus. Yet new applications for drones, very interesting. We have a couple of minutes, so maybe all the presenters can join to discuss this little. I would be actually interested if you have questions to each other, since you are the most deeper, you have the deepest information. So Olli, Andrew, Martin, Magnus, what do you think about drones? Just open your mic freely so we can discuss.
I actually have a little bit of a question to Morten. I've seen examples from Denmark that they've used videos with drone. Is it drone from sky that they use videos and they calculate traffic and pedestrians and other dangers from films? Have you looked into that? Have you heard anything about that, Martin?
Yeah, you're thinking about traffic monitoring or crowd counting using moving images still of still images. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we thought about that, and it's actually easier for computers to calculate when it sees movement on a screen. But in this case, we wanted something as quick as possible. So for us, the user case was to just go to the event, lift the drone, take one image, go back to the office and calculate right away, instead of having to rely on several minutes of footage. So that's just the way we decided to go for it.
It's been one of the big questions that we've had is monitoring traffic and school situations and safety and different events, and trying to model how people actually walk as opposed to doing other routes analysis and stuff like that. I think that's a very exciting new potential area that I think we need to look at and explore in the near future as well.
Definitely, and to that I would actually like to give you all a tip, and that's to go ahead and Google good vision for all you who would like to make traffic calculations and monitoring. It's a very, very cheap and very available product for doing traffic management and traffic monitoring. It works on drones. It works on drone video, even though it could be shaky, and it's less than 1% of what large companies in Denmark would have to would require in payment for such tasks. So that's something for you to investigate if you're looking into traffic monitoring.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, any other ideas? We are 1 minute over, but the topic is so interesting.
I think, but I have one other question. How do you guys how are you handling these new EU regulations? And it's seen in Finland that you're still flying with these bigger drones over people. It's how do you guys how are you handling that? I mean, even the Mavic Pro, it's in a different class than these smaller ones.
Well, that's the problem. We won't be flying over crowds anymore after the 1st of January 2022. So that's why I was saying that we're thinking of acquiring smaller drones. But the Finnish official Traficom, they have made one thing that we actually can make our own flying, they call them flying bubbles. That, for example, clubs that use the hobby clubs that fly different kind of planes, they can have a certain area that in which area the EU regulations are not in use. And we can actually do that for any given area in our city. So the moment we're thinking of whenever we have a construction site or a new planning area, we just make our own bubble over it, and then we can still keep using on phantom drone. It costs a little, but not too much. So it's kind of how would I say, a shortcut, because we used to have one of the most free regulations in drone flying in Finland, and now we're going to have the most strict. So change is big, but there are some chances that we can still keep on flying with our Phantom.
Okay, so that's called innovation. There is regulation that limits, and there's innovation that finds ways to be able to do things. Any other comments before we close? If not,
I mean, I can also add the Danish way of doing things, because all drones right now are considered old drones or legacy drones in a fancy word. But here we have a standard scenario which we can fill in and hand in to the authorities, and then we are actually legally allowed to use our own old drones for a couple of years, flying after the exact same rules that we had before the EU regulations. So that's a plus for us. And also we're using the micro drones way more often because they do not have a specific distance that they have to keep to third-party individuals. So we're using small drones at the moment, trying to avoid all the rules.
Yep. Yeah. Same in Sweden.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one thing that comes to my mind is, it's obvious that the drones are replacing part of the field surveying. They've done that already. It's obvious that they are replacing aerial photography, almost all of it. One thing is, are they replacing base maps? Because why would you go through all that trouble and picking those features? You have the intelligence, you have the image data, which is so accurate. So soon, will there be a day when we don't need base maps anymore? We just have LiDAR data, we have cloud data, we have images.
I think absolutely, but it's also creating other sorts of maps. I think I've noticed since moving to Scandinavia that there's been this more CAD. You had these pretty maps and lines, but you need to, there wasn't so much polygons and areas. And that's the type of features that you can connect more information to when you start to look at surfaces, areas. But it's buildings, stuff like that, and that's you can do a lot more sorts of analysis in GIS, but it's not going to be traditional base maps on like it's been before. I don't believe that. So
yeah, that's happening.
Mm.
So as time flies, maybe I turn back to Sweden from here in California. It's 2 o'clock in the middle of the night here. So I will take a few hours of sleep, and I will turn it to Sophie to finish our webinar.
Yes, thank you, Juha. And a big thank you to all of our speakers and all of you participants. And I think this is a good example of how we can share experiences in the Nordic countries. So if you want to check out our websites, you can see what arrangement we will have in the future. So a big thank you from me and GI Norden. And hopefully we'll see you again. Thank you. Goodbye.